Welcome, the Spicy Lady. The strongest form of freedom begins the moment you stop feeling responsible for how other people choose to see you. There's a big difference between pretending not to care and truly reaching a place where certain things no longer have power over you. Most people confuse indifference with arrogance, coldness, or emotional distance. But for a spicy Lady-Sigma, it is usually something much deeper. It is the result of experience that IT comes from learning difficult lessons that change the way she invests her time, energy, and emotions. A spicy Lady-Sigma does not wake up one day and decide to become distant. She simply reaches a point where she realizes that not every opinion deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs correcting, and not every relationship deserves another chance. That shift changes everything. It allows her to protect her peace instead of constantly protecting other people's expectations. What makes this even more interesting is that many of these behaviors are so subtle that most people completely miss them. They mistake wisdom for pride and emotional discipline for a lack of feelings. In reality, they are seeing someone who has become much more selective about where her attention goes. Stay with me until the very end, because each point reveals a different layer of this mindset. Together, they will help you understand why a spicy Lady-Sigma can appear completely unbothered and why that quiet attitude is often misunderstood by almost everyone around her. Now, let's get started. The Spicy Lady. Number 1, she doesn't rush to replace what she lost, whether it's a relationship, friendship, or opportunity. She doesn't immediately fill the empty space. One of the clear signs that a spicy Lady-Sigma truly could not care less is how she handles loss. Most people feel an immediate urge to replace whatever leaves their life. If a relationship ends, they rush into another one. If a close friend walks away, they quickly search for someone new to fill the gap. If they miss an opportunity, they panic and grab the next one without thinking. The silence that follows loss makes many people uncomfortable. A spicy Lady-Sigma sees that silence differently. She understands that an empty space is not always a problem that needs solving. Sometimes it is a chance to think, heal, and understand what really happened. She would rather sit with temporary loneliness than make permanent mistakes because she acted out of fear. Think about someone who quits a job they hate. Instead of taking the very first offer that comes along, they spend time learning new skills, improving themselves, and waiting for something that truly fits. From the outside, it may look like they are standing still. In reality, they are preparing for something better instead of settling for something familiar. The same applies to relationships. She knows that loneliness can make almost anyone ignore red flags. That is why she refuses to let emotions make important decisions for her. She has learned that not everyone who arrives after a loss is meant to stay. Some people only appear because they sense an empty space. She also knows that grief has something valuable to teach. Every disappointment leaves behind a lesson that cannot be learned if you are too busy chasing the next distraction. Instead of covering the wound, she studies it. Instead of escaping the pain, she asks what it is trying to teach her. This is not about being cold or pretending she never hurts. She feels the loss just like everyone else. The difference is that she refuses to let temporary pain push her into permanent regret. She has discovered a truth that many people only learn after years of repeating the same mistakes. Not everything you lose needs replacing. Sometimes what disappears is making room for something that could never arrive until the old chapter was finally closed. Number 2, she no longer chases reciprocity. She notices who initiates, who remembers, who supports, and who disappears. One of the biggest changes in a spicy Lady-Sigma does not happen in the way she speaks. It happens in the way she gives her time. There comes a point where she stops chasing balanced relationships and starts paying attention to patterns instead. She quietly notices who always reaches out first, who only calls when they need something, who remembers the little things, who shows up when life gets difficult, and who disappears the moment there is nothing to gain. What makes her different is that she does not turn every disappointment into a confrontation. She understands that people reveal their priorities through repeated actions, not carefully chosen words. Instead of asking, "Why did you not text me?" or "Why am I always the one making the effort?" she simply steps back and watches what happens. The answer usually arrives on its own. For example, imagine she decides not to message someone she has always been checking on. Days become weeks and weeks become months. Suddenly she realizes the relationship only existed because she was carrying the entire weight of it. That discovery may hurt, but it also brings clarity. It tells her everything she needs to know without a single argument. From that moment, her energy changes. She stops forcing conversations that have already become one-sided. She stops reminding people how to treat her. She stops investing deeply in people who only invest when it is convenient for them. This is not about keeping score or expecting every act of kindness to be returned immediately. Life does not work that way. Some seasons require us to give more than we receive. But when the imbalance becomes a lifestyle, she pays attention. She has learned that relationships should not feel like a full-time job where only one person is working. Mutual care is not created through guilt. It grows naturally between people who genuinely value one another. That is why her effort becomes proportional instead of emotional. She gives where she is appreciated. She steps back where she is merely tolerated. In doing so, she protects something far more valuable than her time. She protects her self-respect because she knows that constantly chasing people who barely notice your absence is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. Number 3, she stops making people her personal project. She realizes some people enjoy being rescued more than being transformed. Point 1 lesson that changes a SpicyLady-Sigma forever is realizing that you cannot build a better life for someone who has no interest in building one for themselves. There was probably a time when she believed that enough patience, enough encouragement, and enough love could help people change. She gave advice, listened for hours, solved problems that were never hers, and stood beside people who promised they would do better. Then she noticed something. Some people do not actually want solutions. They want someone who will keep saving them from the consequences of their own choices. They complain about the same problems year after year. But every opportunity to change is met with another excuse. They ask for help, not because they are ready to grow, but because they want temporary relief before repeating the same cycle again. Imagine a friend who constantly talks about leaving a toxic relationship. Every month, they promise this time will be different. You spend hours encouraging them, offering support, and helping them make a plan. A few days later, everything goes back to the way it was. Months pass, then years, and the same conversation keeps repeating. Eventually, the SpicyLady-Sigma understands that she is not witnessing a lack of opportunity. She is witnessing a lack of commitment. That realization changes how she spends her energy. She no longer feels guilty for stepping back. She understands that caring about someone does not mean carrying their entire life on her shoulders. Real growth begins when people decide to take responsibility for themselves. No amount of advice can replace that decision. Instead of becoming everyone's unpaid therapist, she invests that same energy into improving her own life. She reads more. She learns new skills. She protects her peace. She builds healthy habits. She creates a future that reflects the effort she once spent trying to fix everyone else. She still has compassion, but it now comes with wisdom. She knows the difference between supporting someone who is truly trying and rescuing someone who has become comfortable staying the same. One leads to growth, the other leads to exhaustion. She chooses growth even when that means walking away from people who never planned to change in the first place. Number 4, she doesn't feel threatened by being forgotten. Many people secretly fear becoming irrelevant. One of the quietest signs that a SpicyLady-Sigma truly could not care less is that she is not afraid of being forgotten. In a world where many people measure their worth by how often they are mentioned, invited, or noticed, she has learned that attention and value are not the same thing. Just because someone is constantly being talked about does not mean they are deeply respected. Sometimes the loudest names disappear just as quickly as they appeared. She understands that people are busy living their own lives. Friends get married, families grow, careers become demanding, priorities change. She does not take every silence personally or assume that being less visible means she matters less. Think about an old teacher who changed your life years ago. You may not think about them every day, but the lessons they gave you still shape the way you live. Their influence remains even when their name rarely crosses your mind. A SpicyLady-Sigma sees value in that kind of impact. She would rather leave a lasting impression than chase constant attention. This also changes the way she handles friendships and relationships. She does not panic if she is not included in every gathering or conversation. She understands that healthy relationships can survive seasons of distance. What matters is sincerity, not constant visibility. She has also realized that trying to stay on everyone's radar can become exhausting. Some people spend so much time posting, explaining themselves, and making sure they are never forgotten that they forget to actually enjoy their own lives. They become performers instead of participants. A SpicyLady-Sigma chooses differently. She would rather spend an afternoon learning something new, enjoying a peaceful moment, or building a meaningful life than worrying about whether people are thinking about her. Ironically, this mindset often makes her more memorable. People remember those who live with purpose, not those who constantly ask to be noticed. She knows a simple truth that many people overlook. Being forgotten by people who were never truly invested in you is not a loss. The people who genuinely care will remember your character, your kindness, and the way you made them feel, even if years pass between conversations. That kind of remembrance is worth far more than temporary attention from a crowd that quickly moves on. Number 5. She builds a life that doesn't need witnesses. Perhaps the deepest sign that a SpicyLady-Sigma truly could not care less is this. She builds a life that does not need witnesses. She no longer believes that every achievement has to be announced or every happy moment has to be shared for it to be real. She has discovered that some of the most meaningful parts of life become even more valuable when they are experienced without an audience. Many people have fallen into the habit of measuring their lives by other people's reactions. A new job feels more exciting if everyone congratulates them. A vacation seems more enjoyable if it gets enough attention. Even personal growth sometimes feels incomplete until someone else notices it. Over time, this creates a quiet dependence on recognition. A SpicyLady-Sigma slowly breaks free from that way of thinking. She learns to enjoy her own progress without turning it into a performance. She can finish reading a great book, reach an important financial goal, overcome a painful chapter, or master a new skill without feeling the need to broadcast it. The reward is the growth itself, not the applause that may follow. Imagine someone who spends an entire year improving their health. They exercise consistently, eat better, sleep well, and become stronger. One person posts every workout hoping for approval. Another simply keeps showing up every day because they love the person they are becoming. The second person understands something powerful. The mirror tells the truth long before the crowd does. The same mindset shapes how she handles difficult seasons. She does not need everyone to witness her healing before she believes she has healed. Some battles are deeply personal and she treats them with quiet respect. She knows that recovery is not a public event. It is a private commitment that happens one day at a time. This does not mean she hides her happiness or refuses to celebrate with people she loves. It simply means her joy is no longer dependent on being seen. Whether anyone notices her progress or not, she keeps moving forward. She has learned one of life's greatest lessons. A meaningful life is not built by collecting attention. It is built by collecting experiences, wisdom, peace, and character. When your happiness no longer depends on an audience, you become free in a way that very few people ever experience. Number 6, she measures respect by consistency. Not words. Promises rarely impress her. She studies repeated behavior. Instead, one of the biggest reasons a SpicyLady-Sigma appears as though she could not care less is because she has stopped believing that words alone tell the truth. She has learned that almost anyone can make a promise when emotions are high. People can say they care, say they will change, or say they will always be there. But after enough life experience, she realizes that words are easy to produce. Consistency is much harder. That is why she pays close attention to patterns instead of promises. She notices the small things that most people overlook. Does someone only reach out when they need a favor? Do they repeatedly cancel plans, but somehow always have time for other people? Do they apologize for the same behavior over and over without making any effort to improve? These repeated actions tell her far more than any emotional speech ever could. For example, imagine a friend who constantly says, "You can always count on me." It sounds comforting, but every time you genuinely need support, they are suddenly too busy, too distracted, or nowhere to be found. After hearing those words enough times, they begin to lose their meaning. The pattern speaks louder than the promise. The same is true in relationships. Someone may promise loyalty, honesty, and commitment, but if their daily actions create confusion, doubt, and disappointment, she trusts what she sees instead of what she hears. She understands that people rarely reveal themselves in one dramatic moment. They reveal themselves through ordinary habits repeated over time. This mindset also protects her from being manipulated. She knows that some people become experts at saying exactly what others want to hear. They use beautiful words to cover poor character. A spicy Lady Sigma no longer falls for that trap because she has learned that sincerity is proven through action, not performance. This does not make her cynical. It makes her observant. She still appreciates kind words, encouragement, and heartfelt conversations, but she knows they only have value when they are supported by consistent behavior. In the end, respect is not built by impressive speeches. It is built by showing up, keeping your word, and doing the right thing even when nobody is watching. That is why she listens with her ears, but she believes what she sees. Once someone's actions reveal their true priorities, their words no longer have the power to change her mind. Number 7. She stops explaining her decisions. Most people feel the need to defend every choice they make. A spicy Lady Sigma quietly reaches a stage where explanations feel like unpaid emotional labor. One of the strongest signs that a spicy Lady Sigma truly could not care less is that she stops explaining every decision she makes. There was a time when she believed that if she could just explain herself clearly enough, people would finally understand her. She thought more words would remove confusion, prevent criticism, and fix misunderstandings. Life eventually taught her something different. She realized that not every question is asked to understand. Some questions are asked to challenge, to criticize, or to make her doubt herself. In those moments, no explanation is ever enough because the other person has already decided what they want to believe. That is why she becomes more selective with her words. For example, imagine she turns down an invitation because she genuinely needs time to rest. Instead of accepting her answer, someone keeps asking, "Are you upset? Is something wrong? You never used to be like this." She could spend 30 minutes defending a simple decision, but she knows it would change nothing. So she simply says, "I need some time for myself," and leaves it there. This is not stubbornness. It is wisdom. She has discovered that constantly defending every choice slowly drains your peace. Before long, you find yourself explaining your hobbies, your career, your friendships, your spending, your goals, and even your personal boundaries, as though your life is a courtroom and everyone else is the judge. A spicy Lady Sigma refuses to live that way. She understands that people who genuinely care will ask questions because they want clarity, not because they want control. Those conversations are worth having. But people who are determined to judge will often twist even the clearest explanation into another reason to criticize. She no longer wastes energy trying to change minds that were never open in the first place. Ironically, the less she explains, the more confidence she develops. She trusts her own judgment enough to let her decisions speak for themselves. She knows that a peaceful life is built by making thoughtful choices, not by collecting approval for every one of them. She has learned a simple but powerful truth. You do not owe the world a detailed explanation for every path you choose. Sometimes your actions are explanation enough, and the people who truly respect you will understand that without needing a long speech. Number 8, she lets people be wrong about her. One of the highest forms of indifference is allowing false opinions to exist without correction. One of the most powerful signs that a spicy Lady Sigma truly could not care less is her willingness to let people be wrong about her. This surprises many people because the natural reaction when someone misunderstands you is to defend yourself. Most of us want to correct the story, explain our intentions, and make sure everyone sees us in the right light. She used to think that way too. Then experience taught her something that changed everything. She realized that some people are not interested in discovering the truth. They are interested in protecting the version of you that fits the story they have already created in their minds. No amount of explaining can change a person who has already decided who you are. That is why she chooses peace over endless arguments, Imagine someone assumes she is unfriendly simply because she prefers a quiet weekend over a crowded gathering. Another person thinks she is proud because she does not join every conversation. She could spend hours trying to convince them otherwise, but she knows something important. People often judge others through the lens of their own experiences, fears, and expectations. Their opinion says just as much about them as it does about her. Instead of chasing every misunderstanding, she lets time do the talking. She keeps living with honesty, treating people with respect, and staying true to her values. Eventually, those who are willing to see the truth will see it. Those who are not would probably never have believed her anyway. This does not mean she accepts lies or allows serious false accusations to go unchallenged. There are moments when speaking up is necessary and wise, but she also knows the difference between protecting her integrity and wasting energy on people who have already closed their minds. One of the greatest freedoms she has discovered is that not everyone has to understand her. Not everyone has to like her. Not everyone has to tell her story correctly. She would rather spend her time building a life filled with purpose than trying to manage every opinion that exists about her. After all, people change their minds every day. Reputation rises and falls with circumstances, but peace is much harder to replace once it is lost. She has learned that the best response to many false opinions is not a longer explanation. It is a life that quietly proves them wrong over time. That kind of truth is far more powerful than any argument could ever be. Number 9, she stops reacting to emotional bait. She recognizes when people provoke reactions simply to feel powerful. One of the clearest signs that a SpicyLady-Sigma truly could not care less is that she stops reacting to emotional bait. She has learned that not every comment deserves an answer. Not every insult deserves a comeback, and not every disagreement deserves her energy. With time, she realizes that some people are not looking for a conversation. They are looking for a reaction. That changes the way she responds. She begins to notice a pattern. Some people throw hurtful remarks into a conversation just to see if they can upset someone. Others make unfair accusations, exaggerate situations, or press sensitive topics because they enjoy watching emotions take over. For them, the reaction is the reward. A SpicyLady-Sigma refuses to hand them that reward. For example, imagine someone says, "You think you are better than everyone else." Years ago, she might have spent 20 minutes explaining her personality, defending her intentions, and trying to prove that the accusation was unfair. Now, she understands something much deeper. If the comment was made to provoke her rather than understand her, no explanation will satisfy the person asking. So, she stays calm. That silence often says more than a long argument ever could. She has learned that every argument has a price. It costs time, peace, focus, and emotional energy. Before responding, she quietly asks herself one simple question. Will this conversation improve my life tomorrow? If the answer is no, she is comfortable letting it go. This does not mean she allows people to disrespect her without limits. There are moments when firm boundaries are necessary. But there is a difference between protecting your dignity and allowing someone else to control your emotions. She chooses the first and refuses the second. She also understands that denying every ridiculous claim can accidentally keep it alive. The more attention you give nonsense, the more space it occupies in your mind and in other people's conversations. Sometimes the fastest way for foolishness to disappear is to stop feeding it. That is why she has become careful with her reactions. She knows that self-control is not about suppressing emotions. It is about deciding who deserves access to them. In the end, she has discovered a truth that many people spend years learning. The person who controls your reactions controls a part of your life. By refusing to be emotionally manipulated, she quietly takes that control back and keeps her peace where it belongs with herself. Final words: the moment you stop trying to control every opinion about you is the moment life becomes a little lighter. Being a SpicyLady-Sigma is not about acting cold, pretending nothing hurts, or pushing everyone away. It is about knowing where your energy belongs and refusing to waste it on battles that have no real reward. The habits we discussed are not signs of arrogance. They are signs of experience. They come from learning that peace is too valuable to trade for endless arguments, forced relationships, or the need to prove yourself to people who have already made up their minds. The truth is, everyone reaches a point where they must decide what deserves their attention. Some spend their lives chasing acceptance, fixing people who do not want to change, or explaining themselves to those who never intended to understand. Others quietly choose a different path. They focus on building a life that reflects their values instead of reacting to every opinion that comes their way. If these traits describe you, remember that protecting your peace does not mean you have stopped caring. It simply means you have become wiser about what is worth caring about. If you enjoyed this video, share your thoughts in the comments. Which of these 9 signs felt the most familiar, and which one challenged the way you think the most? If you found value here, do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this message. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. God bless you.